Hello, it's Vidas Pinkevicius, and in this training I will teach you and show you how to do a harmonization of an interesting melody in 4 parts for soprano, alto, tenor and bass. First, let's create this melody. Okay, on the screen you will see this melody notated on the treble clef notation, and we'll add later 3 missing parts. So the first thing we have to do is, of course, to choose the key. Well, let's say that we want a minor key, some interesting minor key today. How about B minor? This key, B minor, with 2 sharps. Okay, here we can add it here. So it has F sharp and C sharp. And the next thing is, of course, to add the time signature. And we can do that right now. Out of these available options, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, alle breve meter. There are other options, many options. How about choosing 3/4 meter? 3/4 meter. And how about starting with the pickup? Yes, 1 beat will be empty in an incomplete measure before the first measure will be this one, not this one. Okay, so then let me notate the melody in soprano part. We'll start, of course, with the tonic note. For the sake of a demonstration, let me first notate the B minor scale for you. This one, right? I will erase it right away so that you will not need it, but you know now how B minor sounds, right? B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A and B. And here sometimes we can use this harmonic version with A sharp, which is 7th raised scale degree. Sometimes even melodic version with 6th scale degree. Listen how it sounds. Alright, but natural version would be without the additional sharps. Okay, so having said that, let's erase these 3 measures and let's start notating our melody. Okay, this way. I will start with the A sharp. Okay, until here I have created 4 measure excerpt. It's called a sentence. It's not a phrase because it has a cadence right here. A cadence is a close of one musical idea, but a sentence is not a complete musical idea. We will need a couple of sentences present. So I will, of course, need to expand it, but here is the first cadence, right? I just needed to show you how this first sentence was constructed, and after this C. Okay, this way. And the note B. We have to erase this last beat because it's also incomplete, right? Incomplete because the pickup measure was incomplete. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 measures, okay, with the pickup. And we have the soprano part present already, so let me add the tempo indication, maybe andante. Let's do andante. How about that? All right, so it means simply that andante means in Italian sort of a tempo, walking, because andare means to walk, and andante means the speed of walking, so sort of. And now the very first thing to do is to notate the place to breathe. It's called the caesura mark. We'll need this sign, okay, and we'll usually we sort of add this sign in the place right after the first sentence. Of course, it's right here. Of course, it's the place to breathe right here. Caesura, right? Because caesura signifies many possible features, but one feature could be a longer note, rhythmical stop, sort of, right? So here we have one complete musical idea, 2 sentences, right, with 2 stops, right? One is on the note A sharp, and another is on the note B. A sharp is the 7th ray scale degree, as you know, and of course B is sort of the first scale degree. Let me also add a few empty measures for you, and at least we have to still keep in mind our scale, I think, this way. I will notate A sharp, right? So these are scale degrees, right? Scale degrees. Let's add the scale degrees here, so that you will know, you will see on the screen what I'm doing very easily this way. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 plus. I will need to notate plus, yes, and 1 again. Okay, and let's proceed to the actual harmonization process, right? The first is the first thing we have to do is to sort of, we can do 2 things. Either start from the beginning, just like in improvisation. Imagine that this melody is presented to you in front of you, and you are sitting at the keyboard or an organ or a piano and any other keyboard instrument, and you have to play the chords right away, play the harmonization right away at sight. So you will naturally, of course, start from the beginning. But the second method would be to start harmonizing the most structurally important parts, which are, of course, the cadences, the 2 cadences, right here and right here, sort of middle and the ending, sort of, because other places will lead to them, lead to that place. And of course, if you are sitting at the keyboard and you're starting play at sight, sort of at sight harmonizing this melody, you're not actually starting from the beginning, because even before you start playing, you have to get familiar with the melody as I did, right? I sort of played it for you, but you have to sing in your mind this melody, and then of course think about these cadences before playing. So you sort of have to figure out the cadences first, even though you would be playing from the beginning. So let's talk about the cadences first. There is nothing wrong, of course, to start from the beginning. We could do that, but I just want to start with the cadence and one note leading into the cadence. Okay, obviously, there is a question: what chords can we use on these scale degrees? Okay, so let me. How about writing some Roman numerals? Okay, so on the note B, we could use, of course, tonic chord, and we could use the subdominant chord. All right, subdominant, tonic and subdominant. Maybe I will notate it in another way so that you will see it better this way. Tonic, this way. This way, tonic, comma, and subdominant. Why? Because tonic chord is B, D, and F sharp, right? These three pitches, 3 scale degrees. And subdominant is built on the 4th scale degree, E, G, and B. So B also is a common tone for both the tonic and subdominant. Of course, later on, you will need the dominant chord on the note C. Okay, on the note D, the tonic chord, obviously. By the way, the dominant chord is because the dominant chord is built on the 5th scale degree, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. Yes, in thirds, if we think every other note, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. So yeah, C sharp is the note for the dominant chord. Of course, we could use it, you see, in another inversion, not necessarily the root position, but 6 scale degree, the first inversion, 6 chord, sort of say, or even the dominant 7th chord and its inversion too. Basically, a chord built out of 4 notes could be this way. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E. We could do that, and it would sound very, very colorful. All right, it's a little bit more advanced than 3 note chords, but we could still do that. On the note E, of course, we need the subdominant chord or the dominant 7th chord, right? And its inversions, for example, 5/6 chord, 3/4 chord, 4/2 chord. This is sort of right. Okay. Then let's on the note F sharp, we could use, of course, the note the tonic chord, the dominant chord. Yeah, basically these 2 chords. Okay, on the note G, 6 scale degree, obviously this is a subdominant chord, and A sharp, it's the dominant, or any inversions that we can use, and that's it, the tonic. How about erasing this because it's redundant, right? Good. So now we have this complete scale with the chords that we can use, and now we can start harmonizing these cadences. Okay, that was the preliminary step basically, to figure out the scale degrees and the chords. Now the cadence part. The cadence, let's start with the note preceding this cadence. It's this way. So obviously the cadence, it could be then before the cadence on the note B, we could use the tonic or the subdominant. Okay, but if this high leap is in soprano, it indicates one interesting and curious phenomenon. It indicates the repositioning of the same chord in another inversion or position. So basically we have to think on at this G what chord what chord belongs on this G, basically subdominant, right, and then use the same chord here. You will see later on why, because with these large skips it's sort of very not difficult but dangerous to switch to different chords. We could do that, but easier it's reposition the same chord. Okay, so let's add the second voice now. Second voice in the bass first. Okay, always start writing with the bass. How about subdominant chord in the first inversion, and then of course dominant chord in the bass root position. Okay, this way. So let me add the second, the alto part. I added the bass part. Now let's add the missing notes. Okay, maybe this way. Maybe we'll use the root position. Root position E is in the bass. Maybe it will be better. So good. Now let's add the tenor part. Tenor part here, and the next chord is C sharp. Okay. All right. You see how I created and connected two chords, subdominant and the dominant. The principal rule here is this: 3 upper voices move downward and the bass moves upward. Then we can avoid parallel intervals, parallel forbidden fifths and parallel octaves, because if we just use E in the bass and then everything else also goes upward, then of course we have this parallel octave between the tenor and the bass, E, and between the outer voices, soprano and the bass, is also E and B, a fifth, pure perfect fifth, and therefore these dangerous intervals have to be resolved downward. Good, so we have this created. Now let's look at the second. This is the half cadence, by the way, half authentic cadence. Authentic means that the dominant chord is present here, and here is the final cadence. Let's move on to the final cadence. Second voice, the bass basically. Starting not here, but perhaps also one note before the cadence. Here. That's the subdominant chord. Maybe one octave higher. Then would be cadential 6/4 chord. It's called tonic 6/4 chord or tonic second inversion chord. This way, I will explain it right away for you. Dominant 7 chord and the tonic. Here, let's omit this. Good, let's add the final bar line. Good. You see here, of course, is the subdominant chord, and on the downbeat, on the stronger beat of the measure in the cadence, very often we can use the second inversion tonic chord right here. Okay, since it's the 4-part section, it's 4-part setting, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, but many of these chords are 3-note chords. Basically, we have to double some note of the chord, right? For example, subdominant E, G, and B, right? 3 notes, but there is additional note E, right? And E is the root, by the way, of the chord. So, and here in the dominant, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp, and additional root again. So the rule is double the root always in root position chords. And in first inversion chords, we haven't done this before, but we will. We can double the 5th or the root in most common cases. And in the 6/4 chord here, double the bass. So if the bass is F sharp, so then in soprano could be F sharp as well, or in some other voice also F sharp. All right. So let's now add the missing parts. Alto part. Okay. Subdominant chord. The note. Oh, it switched. Good. Now let's add the extra subdominant chord. So E, B, E, G, right? And now tonic second inversion chord. The notes F sharp, B, and D. Good, let's start this way. Good. And this way. This way. Here, when we have this large leaf on the second note, D, right? We can still use the tonic chord. So basically, it will be repositioning of the same chord on another melodic position. The third is in the treble, the third scale degree, and we can still use this the same tonic 6/4 chord. Look what I did: F sharp, B, D, and F sharp. This is tonic 6/4 chord, and then another tonic 6/4 chord. But I sort of switch places between soprano and alto. F sharp becomes alto and D becomes the soprano, right? It's a very common way to do that when the melody goes upward with the high leap. Good. Now let's do maybe a quarter note in the bass, because I'll do that leap. Alright, you see, when we have a large leap in soprano upward, then it's very convenient to use this balanced motion opposite direction in the bass and sort of move downward. It looks nice and it sounds very nice. Good. Now the next chord is the dominant, of course, on the note C. I like to use in the cadence dominant 7th chord. So we need the soprano C sharp and the bass F sharp, 5th scale degree. Good. Now let's complete this chord. We have the root, we have the 5th, we don't have the 3rd, and we don't have the 7th. So the closest note to 7th is alto. Here is the 7th, E note, because the interval between the root and the 7th is the minor 7th, right? F sharp. The full constitution of this chord is F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E. This way, and therefore E is very important, and of course A sharp is here, right here. Well, and at the end we have to resolve this chord properly. The very important rule is that the 7th goes downward in a stepwise motion, this way, to D. And of course the note A goes upward to the note B, maybe this way. We don't have the 5th present. It's called incomplete tonic chord, B, 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 and D. We don't have the note F sharp. We don't have, yes, it's a normal thing. At the end, in the cadence, in the final cadence, especially, sort of this incomplete tonic chord resolution is very handy. But in other places of the exercise, we can't use incomplete tonic chord. We have to have all 3 pitches, B, D, and F sharp present. Okay. So look how our exercise looks now. It sort of, we have 2 structural places present, 2 cadences, and of course it's starting to feel more complete now, right? We can start using the starting harmonizing from the beginning, I guess, because now the cadences, structural points are sort of pillars now are completed, and we can now easily start creating the chords right from the start. So obviously we start the B minor exercise in B minor, right? So with the tonic chord, maybe the second voice. Stems up is the first voice, and stems downward is the second voice. On one stave, right? For example, this way: bass is downward, tenor is up, alto is downward, soprano is up. So we have to treat those 2 voices as voice 1, voice 2 in Sibelius, and here too, voice 1 and voice 2. Now let's complete this tonic chord. We have 2 root pitches, B, so we need to add the missing notes, D and F sharp. Exactly. So let's add this way. The closest chordal note to soprano is F sharp, and tenor would be the first voice. The note, of course, D. Okay. Since we have created our pillar cadences and we have created our first chord, let me do the trick now and facilitate the writing for you and make it quicker. Because if you can figure out the bass line first, not the alto, not the tenor, but the bass line, then everything else will fall into place. Okay? So let's create the bass first. Tonic, dominant, dominant for 2 chord on 2 beats, no, maybe on 1 beat. Here we have this jump, dominant 6/5 chord, tonic chord, tonic 6 chord, tonic again, and then subdominant 6 chord, subdominant root position chord, another subdominant is present already, and the dominant, this is the cadence. Then will be dominant, maybe 6 chord, tonic, tonic, tonic 6 chord, again tonic, subdominant 6 chord, and then maybe subdominant root position chord upward, and then the rest is easy. So look at the shape, of the bass and soprano. Do you see the contrary motion in the bass most of the time? Look, soprano goes upward, the bass goes downward, downward, upward. You see, I try to do this very often, and it works really well. Up. Sometimes when you have the parallel thirds or sixths in the bass in soprano, that works well. But downward, upward, upward, downward. Yes, try to use as much contrary motion in the bass with the soprano as possible. That will help you to avoid forbidden parallel fifths and octaves easily. Alright, let's continue our exercise and maybe, just maybe, let's add the Roman numerals for you, note chords, so to say. Maybe this way, chord symbol. No, not this way. Create. Roman numerals here. Tonic. Oops. Roman numerals means very simple thing. 1 is tonic, right? 5 is the dominant. 5 4 2. 5 4 2 is dominant 6, dominant 4 2 chord, sort of this way, dominant or 5 6 5, 6 and 5. Tonic is 1 6 is tonic 6 chord, 1 is again tonic, 4 is subdominant 6 chord, 4 6, 4 again root position chord again, and the 5th scale degree chord, dominant chord here. I'm notating Roman numerals for you so that you will know easily what kind of chord is this. And on the third beat we have, of course, very easily 5, 6 chord. 1, 1, 6, 1, 4, 6, 4, 4. Now 1, 6, 4 chord, 6, 4 chord, and again dominant 7 and 1. Okay, sometimes we can use but I like to use scale degrees as well. Here we have this dash, means that two chords of the same meaning, same chords are present, right? We don't need to use the same symbol again. Okay, so we have the bass completed and you have the chord symbols in front of you. After we have done this, we can easily just notate the alto part this way. Maybe this will be maybe this will be the not for 2 chord but 4 chord again, 5 chord root position chord. It's better. You see, we can adjust, and as we go along we can correct our mistakes easily if we see very difficult places. All right. Okay, we have completed the alto part in the first sentence and the tenor part. Could be this way or this way. It doesn't matter. It does matter actually. It's better this way. Good. So we have completed our first sentence, and here we have the tonic chord, the dominant chord, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, A sharp, and then again F sharp, F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, 6 chord dominant, A sharp, C sharp, F sharp, F sharp, and then the tonic B, B, F sharp, D, and so on. It's very easy to do once you have completed the bass part. Okay, let's go to the next sentence and add the missing alto part. Okay, stationary F could be this note, right? Dotted. Okay, and the tenor part. be also stationary. That's it. We can now, of course, do this stationary and this. It's more musically correct, right? And this way too. Here no. Here, because we have to replay both chords, because it's a breathing sign caesura. Good, good. Maybe this way. That's about it. Maybe this way. So our last step, of course, is to play it for you, play the exercise for you, and Sibelius will demonstrate how this exercise sounds. And if you notated this exercise together with me on the staff notation with pencil, you can play this exercise on the instrument afterwards. It's very, very interesting, and it will sound good. Let's start. Let's try. Okay, so that's the idea of this exercise, how to create 4 parts, 3 missing parts basically out of soprano line, how to harmonize it. So I hope you enjoyed and found this training useful. Feel free to play this exercise on your instrument with pedals, perhaps if you have the pedals on your organ, and pedals could be played the bass part, of course, for the pedals. Okay, so that's the idea. The basic rule is to avoid forbidden parallel fifths and octaves, to avoid moving all 4 voices in one direction, upward or downward. At least one voice has to be stationary or moving in the contrary motion. To avoid voice crossings, basically alto has to be lower than soprano, tenor has to be lower than the alto, and so on. And the distance between each of the 3 upper voices has to be not more than 1 octave. Here alto and soprano is 1 octave. That's the largest distance. But the distance between the bass and the tenor could be much higher. For example, this way. It doesn't matter that much. Okay. So practice this type of setting on your instrument and writing with pencil. And thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.